makes a person of interest. Coach Micheal Burt cuts to the chase, interviewing some of the biggest names in the world. How do they think? What makes them tick? What are their thought processes? And how they became a person of interest.
Hey there, I'm Coach Micheal Burt, the Super Coach. I'm coming to you live from the Greatness Factory today here in Tennessee. And we're talking about a concept called person of interest, how you become the go-to player in your space. I'm here with a new friend, a person that I've admired for many years. And so many people have told me, oh, you have to know this person. You have to know this person. And luckily for me, maybe a month ago, I was in LA at Tim Story's Congregation Church. And this woman came in and I said, I know who that is. Tim Story said, you got to talk to Sharon Lechter. So today on Person of Interest, we've got Miss Sharon Lechter with us. So thank you for being on Person of Interest.
Well, thank you, Coach Burt. I'm delighted to be with you. Same thing. I've heard about you for years, so it was destined for us to meet and have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, you are a person of interest. I was going through your bio, and you've lived a fascinating life. You're doing fascinating things right now. You got a new book out called Success and Something Greater. And I want to go back. I want to go back to the beginning because you started as a CPA. Is that correct?
I did. And I am still a CPA, just not practicing.
So you started as a CPA, and then at some point you got into being in the personal development space and helping people. How did that happen? Like, walk me through how that originated.
Well, let me take you back a little further from that, because I grew up in a lower middle class home. We lived in a small house between my mom's beauty shop, my dad's used car lot. We had rental real estate that I had to go scrub out with my dad between tenants. We had orange groves, one of which is now SeaWorld. So I lived in this total entrepreneurial environment and said I would never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a sophisticated professional, right? So go to college, get my degree, start my career in Atlanta, Georgia, with one of the big 8 accounting firms back then. That's how long ago it was, Cooper's Lybrand, and fast track upward mobility. And at about the ripe old age of 25, when we know everything, right? Yeah. I'm going, if I'm going to be working this hard, I should be working for myself. All of a sudden, my parents looked a whole lot smarter. And so at 25 is when I decided to go into the world of entrepreneurship. And I've never really looked back. I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life, and started a woman's magazine, started the children's talking books with the sound strips down the side, grew that to a global brand with the inventor of that, with deals with Disney and Warner Brothers and Sesame Street, and then sold that company in 91 and came to Arizona. And it was in the fall of 92, our oldest son graduated from high school and went off to college, came home in December telling us that we needed to bail him out because he'd gotten into credit card debt. I was so mad at him, but I was more mad at myself because when he got to college, he had this gauntlet of tables: free pizza, free money, free t-shirt, free money. And so he had a really good time his first semester at college because he spent all this money we didn't know anything about. And so we refused to bail him out. It took him about 7 years to get his credit back in line and get out of debt, but it was the best thing. We haven't always made the right parenting decisions, but that one was. He's as dedicated to financial literacy as I am. But that was December of 92, and that is when I dedicated the rest of my professional career to financial literacy, financial education, and entrepreneurship.
Well, and that's such I was a basketball coach, a women's basketball coach for a decade. Sharon, I didn't think about money. I made a small salary. I didn't think about investing. I had no financial literacy, to be honest with you, because growing up in our house, I was raised by a single mother, and we didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about it. We didn't bring the subject up. And so really from 20 to 30 years old, I was just out there coaching basketball, winning games, and I didn't think about money. And then at 31, when I retired to start my business, the first thing I needed to do, I learned quickly, is, man, I need to grow my financial intelligence. I need to understand assets and liabilities. I need to understand how business works and the economics of this. So I regret so much from 20 to 30, I didn't have that financial literacy person in my life.
Well, you're not alone. Unfortunately, the vast majority, most people have the same issue because we're not taught about money in school, and it's a criminal thing. It's absolutely unheard of. and we're still not. So it's an important, because it doesn't matter whether you are a coach, whether you're a janitor, whether you're the CEO, entrepreneur, we all have to deal with money. And we're not teaching us. It's a life skill. It's crazy that we're not doing it. And I didn't realize the kind of education that I had at home, similar, total opposite of yours, right? Mm-hmm. I was raised where everything was about buying, building, and creating assets. Yeah. I had no idea that not everybody else knew that. Right. And so it was when I started realizing the lack of financial literacy and education, I said, I have to do something about it, because so many people, I tell people, it's not what you do for your paycheck, it's what you do with your paycheck.
Good.
It's like,
so you started there, you had this revelation, I want to be in the financial literacy business, right? Walk me through the early stages. Walk me through the early things that you did, because I want to get to the concept of some of the really cool things I think you do, whether it be the global brands, licensing, the different things, because I think a lot of people are interested in that, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know where to get started. They don't know, they just don't know what to do. So walk me through, we started as a CPA, you decided you're going to be a financial, then what happened next?
Well, my husband is an intellectual property attorney, so he has always been my partner in understanding how to leverage what you do. So you create something, whether it be a book, or whether it be a program, or whether it be an invention like the talking books, and protect it through intellectual property, and then leverage it through partners and strategic alliances and through licensing. So that's what we've lived, that's what we teach, and that's what I share with my clients that I mentor, is taking what you know and how can you leverage it through other people's money, other people's time, other people's systems. And that's, the idea, you don't have to build it all on your own. And so with the talking books, we had this brand new technology, because it was before cell phones, before screens, kids had never had electronics. And we were trying to put these electronic gadgets in kids' hands. I said, so we need to have something that parents, they don't know us. So how can we partner with someone they know, like, and trust? Mm-hmm. And that's why we did licensing deals with Disney, Sesame Street, Warner Brothers, because instantly there was a level of trust there. And that helped us explode that brand from $1 million to $9 million to $23 million and $52 million the year we sold the company. Wow. And so I said, we were writing really big checks to Disney and Warner Brothers, giant checks. And I said, next time I want to do this the other way. I want to build the brand that everybody else wants. I want to get the royalty checks, not write them. Nice. And so when I dedicated myself to financial literacy, I started working with school systems. But fast forward a few years, this guy in Bermuda shorts and flip-flops went in to see my husband in his corner office downtown Phoenix with this idea for a board game drawn out on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And I still remember my husband calling me, Sharon, I met a guy that has what you've been looking for. And I'm going, wait, what? I was telling the ladies in the room, what would you do if your husband called you and said, I have something that you've been looking for, right? Yeah. I met a guy. So I met Robert Kiyosaki at the beta test. I'm the only one that got out of the rat race. But because of my background and in the talking books and games, I understood how to create and make it a reality, because it was just drawn with crayons. Wow. And so I volunteered to help him commercialize the game, because it was, it really teaches the importance of assets. Right. And understanding that you need to invest your time, not spend your time. Mm. Invest your time in buying, building, creating income, producing assets, because then they become employees for you. Mm. And so I believed in the philosophy. At the time, he had a very low net worth, but he had 2 small apartment complexes, were generating $100,000 a year. He was spending $36,000 a year to live. So he was technically financially free. Mm-hmm. And so that was the message I wanted people to understand and get hold of. And so we became partners. I said, he wanted to charge $200 for the board game. I said, well, let's write a brochure with a philosophy, because that's kind of a pricey board game. Mm-hmm. And our brochure was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people don't understand. It was just a marketing tool. Right. And yet the world said, no, your brand is Rich Dad, not cash flow. And we succeeded in our strategy, because we ended up global very quickly. And in China, they called us the Purple Storm. Mm-hmm. And we ended up writing 15 books together. That was never part of our original business plan. Wow. Multiple games and audio programs, and we went into infomercials, but it was like all of a sudden Time Life came to us. and wrote us a check to work with us. Warner Books came to us. But remember, the first 3 years was dogged determination, daily determination. And we made it to the New York Times bestseller list on our own. My husband and I published the book in our publishing company. And then all of a sudden, all the big players wanted to, come to us. And so Mike and I, my husband, we kind of redefined publishing. We were the first ones to really have a joint venture publishing agreement.
Right.
We had already established the strength of the brand. And so we grew Rich Dad globally for 10 years. I was Robert's partner and CEO of the company. In 2007, we were no longer aligned in what we wanted to do with the company. He wanted to go into franchise. And so I made the decision that it was no longer consistent with who I was. It was a great revenue model for us, not for the franchisee. And I just couldn't. And so I made that decision to leave. It ended up amicable for about 60 days until the valuation of the company came in. And then we ended up in protracted litigation, unfortunately. But in 2008, at the end of 2007 is when I got the call from President Bush asking me to be on the first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. So I served Bush and Obama. But I share that story because sometimes you have to close one door for other doors to open.
Right.
And had I still been at Rich Dad, I wouldn't have that call.
Right.
I didn't know I thought my legacy was Rich Dad. I was really depressed for a couple of months, like, oh my gosh, I've just walked away from this. I wrote 15 books. It's like giving birth 15 times for the ladies who are watching and listening to this. Yep. And I made the decision, and I never regretted leaving, but I regretted things like, oh my gosh, now what? What's next, right? You think you have your life charted out, and then all of a sudden something happens. And so that was an incredible opportunity, a huge, just an incredible compliment to be asked. And so I served Bush and Obama. And then I got the phone call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation when the economy tanked. And that was that was March of 2008. And Don Green and I have known each other for years because Mike and I helped him on some international stuff that he was doing several years before. But he had just learned that I'd left Rich Dad. And he said, Sharon, we need to reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill because of what's happened in the economy. Because most people today, and still today, don't even know who he is. They don't know Think and Grow Rich. And so we need to revitalize that. And so we're now celebrating 10 years I built Rich Dad for 10 years, and now I've been helping the foundation for 10 years. And the new book is my 4th book with them. So it's just coming out next week, actually. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to really support the teachings of an icon. So.
Right. Now, I was on the plane last night coming back from Dallas, and the gentleman beside me was talking about 3 Feet from Gold and some of these books. And I said, oh, I'm going to have Sharon Lechter on my podcast. And he was just so enamored by that. He said, I said, yes, tomorrow. So I want to go back to something, because did you know when the Rich Dad, when that came out, did you guys know it was going to be this huge phenomenon? Because when you look at certain phenomenon that comes along, right? Like I'm trying to think of the way I heard Oprah Winfrey say it once. Like, you don't set out to create a phenomenon, you just create something really interesting, and its impact on the world creates the phenomenon, right? So when you created that, did you say this is going to be it? Like, this is the golden ticket. This is taking us big time, or did it just happen because there's so many people that I'm now coaching that are coaches, speakers that want to go from a baby star to a big star? And it's like, oh, well, you got to write a best-selling book. Well, you got to do this. And it's hard to crack the code on that formula. So what would you tell people out there about that?
Well, I would say no at all. Our original business plan was to use the top 25 Forbes businesswomen to help spread the word about the board game cash flow. Okay. And literally, Rich Dad Poor Dad was secondary. We never expected to write more than one book. And we got such incredible feedback on the book that we Our first million books I shipped from my house. We had the company, and it was like the local post office finally said, Sharon, stop. You can't keep bringing. We can't handle the volume. And so we talk about the power of systems. I realized, okay, I better, practice what I preach and set up the systems. But at that point in time was when we hit the New York Times. But we had such a pushback on people wanting more that we said, okay, so we'll write a trilogy. So we did Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, expecting to stop there.
Right.
But oh no, 15 books later, and then I created the series Rich Dad Advisors because we were all in basically mindset context, and then we needed the verticals of how-tos. So we created Rich Dad Advisors. So no, this was not in our original plan. Our plan was we were a game company. The name of our company was Cash Flow Technologies.
Yeah.
The world knows us as the Rich Dad Company.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's a fascinating story. Now let's go back to this concept of licensing, building global brands. How would you coach a person to do those things? Like I just think, I certainly don't know how to do it. We have licensed a few things, but we haven't formed global partnerships, and we haven't done a lot of those things.
Well, you certainly should, because you have the opportunity to do that. And you've got the brand and the reputation that you could do that easily. So I'd love to help you support you in doing that. There's two different ways to look at this. One is you may be centrally located. So I just don't want to just talk about personal development. Maybe you have something that you're doing and you're in the state of Florida and you are very successful, but you don't want to have to go build a whole new organization in California, but there's a market there for it. So you find somebody that's in a related industry that could get an additional revenue stream by carrying your product or your service. And you create a relationship where they have a license, you have quality control issues, and they offer your products or services to their communities. Mm-hmm. So it's not in competition to you because it's in two separate geographical locations. Or my husband and I own an alternator company. And so we have licensing agreements with government trucks. We have another licensing agreement with commercial buses. Mm-hmm. So again, it could be vertical industries could be how you are doing licensing. So geographic or industries, or in our case, I never wanted to have to build the sales floor, right? I just didn't want to do that. At the height of our success, I had 5,000 people working for us at Rich Dad, but only 17 on my payroll. Okay. So I had the top company when we wanted to go into infomercials. I hate infomercials, by the way. Mm-hmm. I said, if we're going to do this, I want to go with the best, Time Life. So mm-hmm. Time Life used their people, their systems, their technology, their high-end quality, and we worked together creating the content and filming the infomercials, and they did all the work. We got a check. Yes. I like that formula, all right? Then we had a coaching program. Well, I did not want to build a bunch of coaches. So I went to the top coaching company at the time and said, I want you to handle Rich Dad coaching, but forward facing, it's Rich Dad to our clients. I don't want you answering your name. I want you answering Rich Dad. We train specific coaches on our curriculum. We had the ability to call in, to listen, to make sure quality control was there. We maintained control over all of it. They had the systems, they had the economic model, the phone, the ability to handle the phone calls and record them, all of that. So no matter what business you're in, okay, a strategic alliance can be a licensing deal, right? Yep. A joint venture can be a licensing deal. Maybe you're both bringing in content and expertise, but maybe one person is bringing in content and expertise, somebody else is bringing in the database. Those are all, at the end of the day, licensing deals. Okay. And so what you teach, we could do a licensing deal with you, with somebody who has a large database mm-hmm. that wants to provide your expertise, but you don't want to necessarily, because you are an entrepreneur, to actually physically be there all the time. And right. So you license them to train somebody to be your voice, somebody that can share your content and be able to do that. That's a licensing deal. So everyone watching and listening can do this. Mm-hmm. The issue is identifying the opportunities and putting yourself in the place of highest potential.
Nice. Now let's talk about when Napoleon Hill Foundation came to you and you were, working with them closely. Tell me about that relationship now, because you're taking that content, you're refreshing that content, you're adding out some of the books. You got commentary in there. One of my favorites is Outwitting the Devil. I think
Life changing.
It's a man. That's just the mindset that puts you in to think. It's just really, really good. And I keep a copy of that here at the Greatness Factory. Anytime we have a minute, that's the one I go to. So talk about that relationship and what you're doing with them.
Well, absolutely. As I said, I meant Don Green at the Book Expo. We happened to have the Rich Dad booth, and their booth was close by. And so I went over to introduce myself because I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. I don't think I realized the impact it had on my life until I was in my 30s. Mm-hmm. But I was just so thrilled to go over and meet Don and meet the people that were there. And we continued a dialogue. And as I said, Mike and I helped him with some of his international work. But when he found out I left Rich Dad, he asked me to step into 3 Feet from Gold. And that was just the beginning of an incredible 10-year relationship. Don Green is just the true epitome of a Southern gentleman and absolutely dedicated to supporting and maintaining the integrity of Napoleon Hill's work. And he understands the fact that I believe in that value as well, and I will do everything to protect the foundation and protect the brand. And so we released 3 Feet from Gold, and that month is when he called me and said, I have this manuscript that's been hidden away for 73 years. I'd love your opinion. And so I ran away to San Diego and read the manuscript for Outwitting the Devil, which was on a handwritten typewriter because it was 1938. Right. And it had handwritten notes. Oh, wow. From Napoleon Hill. So I almost felt like it was like in communing with him. Yeah. And it was such a powerful book for me. I told Don, I said, we have to get it out. But one of the reasons was that we wanted to encourage the younger generation to pick up and read Hill's work. Yep. Think and Grow Rich was a little too much for them. Right. 3 Feet from Gold went a long way in that, but Outwitting the Devil has just blown up that generation. They love it. They love the book. They love the audio. I required the publisher to have 2 different voices on the audio. So we got the devil's voice is real grovelly and it's like a radio drama, but it really has succeeded and continued to be a bestseller because it does attack the mindset. Right. And make us realize how fear holds us back. And there's lots of different kinds of fear. Right. I think that's probably what you find in it as well.
Right. So tell me about your business model today. So how do you, because I know you do some coaching, tell me, walk me through how your business model works, because we coach lots of entrepreneurs and sales professionals, and through our coaching program, we have about 400 to 700 people at any given time in there that's being coached by us. So walk us through your model.
Well, that's not the business model that I want today. About 6.5 years ago, I lost my youngest son. So I actually put my life into kind of neutral. In fact, this book, most of my life, I released a book every 9 months to a year. And Think and Grow Rich for Women was released 5 years ago. So this is kind of a whole new, it's like me. I thought about retiring because I felt like I was like just living my life in neutral, playing small. And about 1.5 years ago, I got a lot of pushback from my friends when I said, I think I might retire. And so I've made the decision to refire. That's my new tagline. I'm refiring. And so this is the first book. I've got another one coming out next year, but it's kind of this is a huge symbol to me because it's all of us, we're still here. We have more to do. And, so my business model today, back to your question, is I'm not looking to build a whole big new company because I'm 65 and I want to support and add value to people that feel that my wisdom can help them or their companies. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of speaking. I do have mentoring clients, but only a few. I keep it under 10 that I do deep dives with them. And then I have online courses that I've created that take the mentoring aspect of what I do and put it in something that is much less expensive, much more affordable, and shares the whole concept of what you and I have just been talking about, understanding building the legal side of your business, understanding the systems, business systems. Most people own a job, not a business. Yeah. My expertise is to help people understand how to take their job, is their business, they think they're solopreneur, and create the business system. If you're familiar with cash flow quadrant, getting them from the left side to the right side. And my test is, if you can't leave your business and come back 6 months and have it stronger, then you're still not a big business. And we want to get you to where you're a big business.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because, 11 years ago, I was a high school basketball coach. So I'm still, in some ways, we're catching some momentum. But I wrote down while you were talking, we're doing it all wrong. We're doing it the hard way, Sharon. I'm sitting and listening to you. I'm going, oh my gosh, we're doing it, but we're doing it the wrong way in some ways. And I think when you said just then, your wisdom can really help. Your life experiences can really help accelerate a person's path. And I think that's really, really what you do. So let's finish today with the new book, because I think it's a great title. And I can sense that you're involved in something greater at this point in your life. I mean,
thank you. That's a great compliment.
There's a much bigger play that you're involved in helping people today. And I sensed that when we met in California, and I told my wife, I'm like, that woman is doing big things in the world. So let's talk about that. It's brand new. It's just come out. Success in something
greater. Success in Something Greater. And what's really special about this is this title was the title that Napoleon Hill was going to use for his last book.
Oh, wow.
And it never came out. And so the foundation, because again, this is kind of my 10-year anniversary with the foundation as well. In fact, we have a 10th anniversary, 3 Feet from Gold, coming out next year. It's hard to imagine it's already been 10 years, but this book, we interviewed close to 20 people, plus we have some never before released content from Napoleon Hill as well, about everybody's aspect and opinion of what their success should be is different. And that's okay. For me today, my definition of success is not my bank account. I'm financially free, but my definition of success is how I feel about myself when I look in the mirror. I grew up, my dad would ask me each night, have you added value to someone's life today? I can't imagine retire. I tried it for a couple of months, retiring. It was not good. I wasn't feeling like I was making a contribution. And so, I still ask myself every night, have I added value to someone's life today? So for me, my definition of success is different from someone else. I have friends, their whole definition of success is they want to become billionaires. That's good for them. That's not my goal. And so your definition of success is unique to you. Mm-hmm. And are you sharing it? And so what happens in this book, these individuals all talk about not just how they created their success, because each of them had their own magic key or secret sauce, you might want to call it, on what they focused on to create their success, but also how they then turn that success into something greater.
Right. I love it. Well, listen, we're going to do things together. I can't wait. I'm so glad we got to have you on Person of Interest today. You are a true person of interest. And,
well, thank you so much.
And I think, people of interest move the world forward. People of interest inspire us to be better and to grow. So there's several things in here that I took away from today. I've got a feeling I'm going to go back and watch this multiple times. And we're going to be pumping this out to the market. And in 2020,
I'm going to take a picture of this here.
Yeah, absolutely. For the people that are watching, that's going to watch the show, Sharon and I are working on things that we can do together in 2020, because I really do think her wisdom and her life experiences can really, really help everybody perform at a much higher level. So
I absolutely look forward to that, because you are so impressive. And certainly in my conversations with you and Tim, I think, we need to highlight each other. We need to lift each other up, because there's so many, excuse my term, but there's so many false prophets out there who stand on stage and profess to have success when they don't. And that's one of my goals for the next few months is to really highlight the people of integrity and honesty that truly are. You have to be careful who you listen to, and get counsel from people who have been there and want to share that with you instead of advice.
Absolutely.
And making sure that you get somebody that can mentor you who's been where you want to go. And so I applaud you as well, because I think you're just a kindred soul and dedicated to the people that you work with. So thank you for that.
Good. Well, Sharon Lechter, everybody, Person of Interest. My name's Coach Micheal Burt. I believe everybody needs a great coach in their life. Thank you for joining us for another edition of POI, how to become a must-have versus a nice-to-have in the world. Sharon, thank you, and I'll be seeing you soon, okay?
I will look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.